Oh,
Recording is on.
okay, welcome everybody to the regular SOAREX meeting. And to get this out of the way, please note that all our meetings are recorded and made available to the public for viewing on our YouTube channel. By participating in the meeting, it is understood that you've accepted these terms. And that be it. Um, so tonight, we have Michael. He's going to be doing a presentation. He's going to be, I assume, comparing the tiny essay with an essay. Am I correct, Michael?
Yeah, that's right. That's
Okay.
right.
Well, whenever you're ready.
Oh, hang on. Did you
Okay,
start recording, Eric?
Yeah, he did.
Okay. Um, all right, let's try this. Start share. Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay, you guys should see that,
Yeah.
right? And
Yes,
this
sir.
next slide, you can see all that, right?
Yes.
Okay. So anyway, I bought a tiny essay a couple of years ago. Actually, I've had it sitting around and never did anything with it until I got the Siglent spectrum analyzer, and I thought, well, maybe I should have a look at it and see if I could figure out how to use it and how it compares with the SA and the Siglent. And there's a couple of videos. Let's see, IMSAI guy has done some comparison videos, and there's a few others out there. So I thought, well, okay, I'll try that. Anyway, so really, I haven't used the tiny essay at all, really, to speak of, other than for the purpose of this presentation. So what is it? It's a nice small spectrum analyzer. It's only 60 to 100 US dollars, I think. Not very expensive compared to a Siglent, $1,900 that cost. It's the original Siglent. The original Tiny SA has a small screen, 2.8 inches on diagonal. That was the original one. The new one, the Tiny SA Ultra, has a 4-inch screen. It's the same size as the Nano VNA H4, so it's a bit bigger. And it's got an internal rechargeable battery and charged by a USB cable. It's got two inputs: a low input, which is 100 kilohertz up to 350 megahertz, and a high input, 240 to 960. Yeah, and there are SMA connectors on both of them. So it's got the same kind of restrictions on it as a regular spectrum analyzer, and in as much as you got to be careful how much you put into it. The limit is 10 dBm. That's with no internal attenuation. You can use it as a signal generator, and on the low output side, it puts out a sine wave, and on the high frequency side, it's a square wave. And it's got various attenuation levels, and you can upgrade the firmware, which I did. The original one I had the original firmware. I upgraded the new firmware to the new firmware, and it's fine. And it's got a PC interface, which I haven't used very much. It's pretty primitive. But then tonight I was going back and looking at the Nano VNA to sweep an antenna, and it's not all that great either, the interface. About the upgrade, it has a touchscreen type of thing that you can activate with a guitar pick or your finger or whatever. And I found that I've been using it, testing it and whatnot, and then it suddenly stopped. like the menu systems didn't work all that well, and you had to be really careful where you put your stylus or your guitar pick on the little menu icon. And that went on for a while, and then I thought, well, okay, can't see anything wrong with it particularly. It just doesn't want to work anymore. So so I upgraded to the latest firmware, and the problem went away, and now it's fine. So I don't know what to think about that. Anyway, this is what's in the box. You get the little essay itself. I've actually put onto it a couple of extender connectors. Those are the gold things there. The actual original device, don't go this far. It comes with a little through connector. It comes with an antenna, a telescopic antenna, and two 4-inch or 6-inch or something SMA to SMA connectors. They say you should be really careful with one of these with that antenna connected, because you connect that antenna, then go turn your radio transmitter on, you're going to fry things perhaps. So something to be aware of. Anyway, this is a block diagram. I have to say I don't know a lot about this, but going from the low input, for example, there's a 30 dB adjustable attenuator, 30 dB to 0, followed by a low pass filter, 350 megahertz low pass filter, and that output of that goes into a mixer. And there's a 433.9 megahertz IF, and that IF output goes into this RX box, which is a second IF mixer type of thing, and it goes up to 800. Well, its output is 870 kilohertz, and that's where the RBW filters are. There's a bunch of those, and they're going from 3 kilohertz to 600 kilohertz. And anyway, the output goes into a processor, and then you get your display. So as I said, the screen is 2.8 inches. It's a touchscreen thing. It's got a little jog switch control that you can change things, and it's controllable through the PC and upgradable firmware. It's got a linear power supply, which is sort of interesting, and it's got a self-test calibration routine. You push a button and you start it, and it goes through a bunch of cycles. I think it's 6 or 7 routines, and then it checks out. So on the lows, the frequency, as far as the specs are concerned, the low frequency specs, it uses the low input SMA connector, and its range is, as I said, up to 300 megahertz. It's got a 50 ohm input impedance, and the maximum, like I said earlier, is 10 dB TBM. And the IMSAI guy did a whole bunch of tests, and he was getting comparisons actually between this tiny SA and his spectrum analyzer, which happened to be a Siglent, and he found he wasn't getting consistent results. And eventually he discovered that if the output of the device you're testing, like a signal generator, if that output is higher than minus 30 dBm, you get distortion going on. So if you keep it below minus 30, you're okay. And the accuracy apparently is plus or minus 2 dBm, and then I found the accuracy of mine. You set your signal generator to minus 35, let's say, and you can get minus 37, minus that. So it doesn't appear to be all that accurate. Anyway, it's okay for what it is. It's got a low, the output is a sine wave. The high uses the other SMA connector, and it goes from 240 megahertz up to 960, and the input impedance is frequency dependent. It's not 50 ohms, and it's got the same internal attenuation selections, that kind of stuff. And likewise, you have to keep the input to it relatively low, and it's got a high output square. The high output is a square wave. So this is what the display looks like. Down the left-hand side, there are different parameters. This is 10 dB per division, attenuation, the the RBW figure. This is 600 kilohertz, 621 kilohertz, right? And whatnot. Down the side is a little battery indicator. And the range, as you set it up, goes from 0 to minus 100 dBm. It's got a number of menus here. You can preset things. It's got a frequency. You click on the frequency, you get to put the start frequency, the stop frequency, or the center frequency in the scan width and stuff. You can adjust the levels. You can adjust what the display shows. It's got a bunch of markers. There's 3 here. You can do a bunch of measurements. It's got a configuration thing, which is tab, which is how you do the self-test, and also the how you upgrade the firmware from there. And it's got different modes: low input mode, the low frequency input, the high frequency input. It's got a low frequency output mode and a high frequency output mode as well.
Get the gear to play your best from the Tennis Shop, powered by Tennis Point at tennisshop.com. Whether you're a beginner or play.
You still there, Michael?
Oh, looks like he's gone.
Michael's mic is muted. Michael, you're muted.
How did that get muted? Where did I last say something? Let me go back.
About a minute back, anyway. Put your screen back up, and maybe we can see what it figured out.
Yeah. Okay. Let me go back here. There it is. Okay.
Like I started to hear somebody else, some other noise in the background. Then all of a sudden, you got muted somehow.
I got to reset things here. Hang on a minute. Okay, that's there. Let me go back to here, and we'll share again. Okay. Okay. Let me go back a bit. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Let me go back a bit here then. I was talking about the display.
Yes, the
Yeah,
modes.
Yeah, we heard that.
Okay, then the next thing I was talking about was this this particular plot, which is a 7.1 megahertz signal from the signal generator, the Siglent one, and the carrier is minus. I set it up at minus 35 dBm, and this is what you get. No modulation on this thing, not at all. So that's just a straight carrier. You guys still hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. This is the Siglent spectrum analyzer with AM modulation, and you can see at the center frequency 7.1, and you can see the upper and lower sidebands, and they're at the minus 41, and the others are minus 53. So when I did that with the Tiny SA, this is what I got. And same minus 35 dBm, modulation, same modulation frequency, everything. But you can see that the display is not particularly sharp, and that's the best you get with it, because the resolution bandwidth, the minimum bandwidth, is only 3.1 kilohertz, whereas the Tiny SA, the regular SA, you can go down to 10 hertz or something, or at least a couple of hundred hertz or whatever. So that's one of the limitations of this, I think. So I did FM as well. This is the spectrum analyzer, and you can see the 3 peaks there, and this is what the tiny SA gives you. Same thing with not particularly sharp, but you get the idea, I guess. I use the power splitter that I put together so I could look at both the tiny SA and the spectrum analyzer together. And this is FM, so you can see what the tiny SA looks like here, and what the main spectrum analyzer looks like. This is how you set it. This is the setup when you select the generator, low output and high output, and in both cases you put in the frequency, the level, the modulation type, the span, and whatnot. And likewise for the high output over here, the same kind of thing. And that's how you set it up anyway. And this is the tiny SA with its low output at 7.1 megahertz. The output was minus 15 dBm, and the actual, when you look at it, the actual is minus 17. That's the 1R down here. So it's a little bit out, but I guess this is the plus or minus 2 dBm accuracy specification. And interestingly, it appears to be a second harmonic here at 14.24. It's low, but it's there, and I saw that sometimes, other times I didn't, so I'm not quite sure why that is. And this is with the scope, just showing the oscilloscope reading. And the readings are pretty, the spectrum analyzer reading is minus 23, and the oscilloscope's about the same. So, and this is the high output with the harmonics, and they were all there. And I thought, well, okay, what I'll do is I'll figure out. I set it at minus 5 dBm, and it's a square wave because it's the high output. And what I actually got when I calculated what I was actually seeing by taking these and converting them to milliwatts, dBm figures converting to milliwatts, summing them all up, and then getting the peaks, converting it back to dBm, I got 3.52. So it's out, and not sure what to think of that. And this is the calculation I did, which is these are the power outputs of the various harmonics, and when you add them all up, you get the milliwatts, and then you convert it to dBm, and that's what I got. So, just for interest. And this is the PC application, which I really didn't spend a lot of time trying to get to work, but you can see what it looks like anyway. And this is early days for this. I guess there's been some talk, I think, on the IO group about modifying it and stuff, but that's what it looks like for the moment anyway. And some of the limitations, it's minimum RBW is 3.2 kilohertz, and like I said, that's not anywhere near what the SA3021X does in terms of its minimum. And takes a long time to stabilize the display. I didn't actually see that, but I guess it does. And the way this thing works, my understanding of the Siglant is that it takes as input the entire range you're looking at, and it sweeps that range, digitizes the entire range to start with right at the input. The tiny SA, it actually sweeps the bandpass filters, or the RBW filters, which are fairly far down the range. So it's a different way of doing it, I guess. It has the tiny screen size, which is somewhat difficult to read, I think, and the software, as I said, doesn't come up to scratch. So anyway, that's really all I got to say. I used this Eric Kashuk's YouTube video. He's the guy that developed the Tiny SA, and the IMSAI guy has a lot of YouTube videos as well. There's the IO group, and there's a user manual which you can find on the IO group that's pretty good. It sort of explains how to do things, and there's another thing. It's a PDF file. There's another thing called Tiny SA. Tiny SA is a real spectrum analyzer. These are all available on the IO group. Anyway, that's what I have to say. So maybe I'll go back and stop here. So that's it. Yeah. Dave, I saw you there. Go ahead. Anybody there?
Muted. I am muted. Okay. Excellent presentation,
No,
Mike.
I got to be muted either.
Yeah, that was actually very good. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Yeah. Yep.
Okay, good. Yep. Yeah, I was saying excellent presentation. I enjoyed that. I liked the comparison. Very thorough. I had a couple of questions, just a clarification. So on your block diagram you had, what frequency was being fed to the processor? I'm just curious because that's got to be a fairly low frequency because the processor's digitizing that, right?
I think that's the output of that. That's the output of the second IF, I think, and it's 870 kilohertz.
Okay, so that's what it was. Okay. So it's
870.
It's about 900 kilohertz. Okay, which
yeah,
is
right.
pretty good. What processor was it using? Did you see?
Oh, gee, I don't know. Can I?
It's okay.
I can just go back and have it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's okay.
I don't know.
I'm just curious. because I know, if it was something like of the order of 900 kilohertz, that's a pretty damn good processor. Like it's getting it's sampling, beyond 900 kilohertz. So it's sampling at 1.8 gigahertz potentially to get Nyquist to be able to resolve 900 kilohertz.
Oh yeah,
which is
right, yeah.
So like a processor that's able to do that, I'd really like to find out what that processor is, because or maybe it's got some other supporting. It's got an external ADC. I don't know. It's just curious. Anyway, the other clarification I had was when you're doing your FM modulation, that was pretty discrete. So I think you said you've got 3 peaks, right? So was it was taking a carrier and was modulating it 3 kilohertz? Was it continuous or was it doing it discrete, 3 kilohertz? Because like FM, normally I would think FM would be just a blob because it's modulating the frequency within that, right? You understand what I'm saying?
I guess, but I was using a signal generator, the SG 1030X. 1032X,
Right,
and
right.
it was set for whatever deviation, and that's how it was set with the modulation. That's how it was set. So it wasn't like
because the only time I've ever seen FM modulation, I haven't played around with the signal generator for doing FM, but I always visioned, well, the only time I've ever seen FM, it's where it's phone. And so your voice it's varying frequency and you just see a blob. You don't see discrete peaks, right?
Oh yeah, but this understand it. Yeah, but this one you with the signal generator, you just set it up. What I did, I set it up and set the deviation and set the whatever the other term is, and that's what came out. That's what it looked like. So it's not varying by voice or anything. It's just fixed.
Yeah, so I'd like to, that's something I need to go look at to see how that actually works. It's very interesting. Then the last thing was just a comment. It was just a comment. You had said that, you saw the nice big peak and you saw a tiny little harmonic, and it was at like minus 33 dBm below the carrier, right below the
Yeah.
main. Yeah, your resolution is 300 kilohertz, which is huge. If you were to narrow your resolution down to say 10
Yes.
kilohertz, okay, you would resolve that, because what it's doing, it's integrating the energy right out of that peak. So you're seeing much more noise than you are seeing the peak. So if you reduce it, it'll integrate it over a much more narrower, and you'll get a much more pronounced peak. So
Got
that's
it.
just a
Okay.
resolution thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll try
Anyway,
that and
that's
see.
all.
Yeah, okay.
All I had. Excellent,
Okay.
but very good presentation, Michael. I really enjoyed that. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Peter, you had something to say.
Usually. Just to just to just to further well, I have a couple of questions as well, but I just want to go back to what Dave was talking about with the FM signal, and I was thinking to myself, yeah, that's right. But I'm just wondering then, what we were seeing is the signal generator that's set up for that deviation is actually setting out a series of pulses or signals at the same frequency. They're not varying; they're fixed. But I'm wondering if that's what we're seeing. So if you actually had a modulated, by whatever, then we would get the blob that I think that Dave was referring to. At least that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, well, it's just a tone. I think I'm just going to turn it on and have a look here and see.
If it was a tone, then that would seem to make. I would go along with what Dave was saying. You'd see a blob. But is the signal generator, when you say 5 kilohertz deviation, it's going to set out a series of fixed signals. That
I have to admit I'm not an expert. I just set it up and used it. So
well, that's why you do these presentations.
I'm not sure.
We're going to make an expert.
Yeah. So yeah, I need to think about that. I'll go back and have another look. But I guess now is not the time to try to have a look at the signal generator. But I just set it up the way I set it to FM. And what I got, it gives you a frequency, and it. Beg your pardon?
I said rabbit hole. Rabbit hole.
You get to put amplitude. I'm looking at the display right now. You get to put the frequency and the amplitude, and the modulation frequency 5 kilohertz, and the deviation was 3 kilohertz. That's what I set up, and when I looked at it on the spectrum analyzer, that's what I got. The peaks, the way I showed it. So yeah, okay. Anyway, what can I say? It's all a mystery. Anybody else?
Yeah. So what is your review on this?
I mean, what do I think of it?
Yeah.
You're asking. Well, if you don't have a fancy spectrum analyzer, I guess this is a good way to go. But there seems to be. You look at. I watch the Groups IO emails, and there's a lot of discussion about the tiny SA, and a lot of comments. Most of which are not relevant to me because I'm not using it, but there's a lot of chatter about it. And the Ultra is the 4-inch one is pretty good, but this is also similarly a lot of chatter. I don't have the knowledge really to say how good it is, but certainly I would prefer to, since I got the main spectrum analyzer, that's what I'd use. As a matter of fact, the tiny SA, if I knew I was going to get the big one, I probably wouldn't have got the tiny SA anyway, at all.
Yeah, I would.
Dwayne, you had a comment.
Yeah, I was following the original design of the thing on the groups when the first thing came out, and I got one of the first ones that was shipped. It does a good job for what most hobbyists are going to need for checking out equipment and stuff like that. The one thing that it does that is missing that you have on the the full-size SA is a tracking generator. I've got a blog post on a tracking generator that I adapted for it, basically using a mixer and another signal generator to generate the IF frequencies. So I could have an active tracking generator that follows the input frequency that you're looking at. That also goes and by changing the frequency of the mixer, I was able to go and run the input frequency up to almost three gigahertz, and I could go and use and look at some Wi-Fi signals and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot to mention it doesn't have a tracking generator. That's right, which the other one does. The big spectrum analyzer does.
Yeah, I was looking into possibly getting one. They're cheap enough. But I was reading reviews. I was watching him say his guys' videos, and I don't know. I think it's 50-50 on the review end of it.
Yeah, well, certainly, I'm not. I don't think I'll ever use it again. It's just sitting here, so now that I got the big one.
Peter, go
But
ahead.
like you say, if you don't.
Okay, yeah, sorry, I was having computer troubles here. I'm not sure what's going on. Excuse me. A couple of things. Actually, to your point, Ken, before I bought the Sigland, I managed to obtain an old HP. It went up to 40 megahertz, and it was quite good until it broke. The only real big problem with it was it weighed a ton. It took two of us to lift it, and that's the problem. Matter of fact, it took two of us to carry it out of the house where we got it, and it took two of us to carry it into this place here. And then when it finally broke and I couldn't get it going again, I got tired of waiting for help to come home to give me, and I went to take it off the bench and broke my back. But anyway, that's another story. So what I was going with this was maybe wandering around flea markets and waiting right to the near the end of the flea market, you might find somebody with these old HP spectrum analyzers that work, that will go for dirt cheap because they don't want to cart the thing out of there. So you might want to keep that in mind. So actually, Michael, I was going to ask you, if you didn't have, I mean, obviously because you have the real one, for lack of a better word, why would you use the tiny? Unless you're out in the field somewhere, then maybe you might use it. And plus, it doesn't have the tracking generator. So a spectrum analyzer with the tracking generator, in my opinion, is basically a must. Now, obviously, if you get something for free or a real dirt cheap Ken that doesn't have one, well, hey, it is what it is. Michael, the 2 dBm area that it was quoted there, did you find that there was a 2 dBm level? I don't know how extensive the testing comparisons you made, like a signal at minus 30, a signal at minus 60, and all that kind of stuff. Were they all showing a 2 dBm error, or was it a linear error, or was it fluctuating?
I never did that. I never did that. I just did the one test, and on whichever, like, I think it was the high output, I saw the difference. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's that. So I didn't do that kind of testing. I just went through it and saw what I saw. Just the one.
What about the low end? How low of a signal would the Tiny SA receive?
You mean in kilohertz?
No, in
kilohertz or
in amplitude. How many dBm?
That I don't know. I know the scale goes down to 100. That's where the noise floor seems to be, around 100. And I'm stepping onto dangerous ground here because I'm not really sure how to look at that.
Okay. And I was good. I know Dave.
By the way,
Sorry.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Say again.
No, you were about to say something.
I was just going to comment that the quality of the video tonight is not great. It's sort of bit jittery and not as clear as it usually is.
I know
For you, Dave, like
I'm having bandwidth problems myself. I don't know if it's Jitsi or me at the house here, and I think in my case it's the house. So I lowered my bandwidth down to I took it off a high performance right down to best. I think 2-3 notches down. I've heard that when you get a group of guys on, you should lower your setting down a little bit. So maybe if everybody does that, settings and then go to performance levels and just cut your performance down a little bit, it may help with the overall.
maybe, yeah.
Yeah, just set it to the second highest level.
Yeah. Michael, I just want to clarify. Dave made reference to that harmonic, that little blip that you saw.
Yep.
That was from the Siglet, the screen that we were looking at, right?
That was the Siglet screen I was looking at, and I was looking at the output of the Tiny SA.
Oh, okay. I was just going to say
the low frequency output, the low output. Yeah.
Okay.
And I had figured well, it should be there shouldn't be any second harmonic. I mean, it's supposed to be a sine wave, so there should just be the one trace, right?
Well, maybe it's an artifact.
I actually saw this, and other times I haven't seen it, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, maybe it's an artifact of something. Who knows?
Maybe other times I did what Dave suggested, had the bandwidth different. I don't remember.
Yeah, Dave brought up a good point there, I think, too, about the bandwidth. I think you said you didn't do too much comparison with the software screens with the Tiny SA, but did you have a look at enough to say, like, I'd be interested to know what did the software screen show comparing to the Tiny SA screen? Like you were showing the three signals there. It was kind of a bit coarse, a bit wide, that kind of thing. What was the computer screen showing, or the software screen?
I didn't check it out. I just looked to see what it looked like. I didn't actually try it with the Tiny SA to see what it did, so I don't know.
Okay.
That thing I showed was just basically what it looks like on startup, but I didn't actually do any testing, so I don't know.
Okay. I think that's it for me. Thank you, Michael.
Oh yeah, sure.
Anybody else? Okay, thanks, Michael. That was pretty good. I may still even look into getting one just to try it out.
Bet you Michael's got one for sale.
Oh, probably. I got a Toonie.
Right.
Well,
Okay.
I wonder, did you see any old HP equipment lying around at the Kingston Ham Fest?
No, I didn't. I didn't see anything. A lot of Yaesu and Icom radios. I think all the good stuff was gone right as soon as the door was opened. And of course, I didn't get there till like 9 o'clock. Okay. So does anybody have anything new that they want to discuss, or maybe something for show and tell? No, doesn't look like it.
Could
Okay.
maybe I wouldn't mind mentioning the different guys that are around here. We got if anybody's got some show and tells, think about that. We certainly could use some new blood showing things off, and if somebody would like to make a presentation, small, large, in between, we're always looking for help there, and maybe hearing a different voice instead of the usual guys around here might be that might be interesting. So, dust off an old presentation or something you're interested in doing, develop one. Like I say, it can be short, long, in between, doesn't matter, but we're always looking for some new faces, or old faces for that matter.
Yeah. Find that the presentations are done by the usual people. Like Peter said, it'd be nice if some of the non-usuals would, even if it's 5 minutes, it really doesn't matter. Myself, I haven't done any presentations lately. I just haven't had the time to get anything together. But pretty soon I'll start contributing again.
One thing I thought of maybe is, I don't think we've really done it. I don't think we've ever had a topic of interest. we've usually just gone on a presentation that somebody wanted to do, and then we've kind of gone off on that. But you might want to think about something like that. If there's something that somebody would like to talk about or bring up that we could all talk about, that might not be a bad idea either. But again, it needs to formalize it a little bit.
Well, why don't we post something on the group and get some ideas?
Yeah, we haven't done a poll in a long time, and I know there was some interest in some LT Spice stuff, starting off with the basics. So I am working on a bunch of those kind of, I'll just say, mini presentations / demos. There'll probably be more demos now going forward. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I don't know how long they'll be. I guess it depends on questions, but I am going to work on a series of those going forward. And that's kind of what all I've got on the go right at the moment, but I should be able to come up with, I'll just say several. But again, it's open if somebody else would like to talk about some LT Spice too. Just put your hands up.
Drew, go ahead.
Well, I actually was wondering whether Michael had a chance to compare that tiny SA against the spectrum analyzer and SDR combination that was quite popular about a year ago, just to see, for what purpose the SA was being used.
No, I didn't do anything like that. I don't have an SDR radio to do it with anyway, so I didn't do anything like that.
Okay, thanks.
Go ahead, Pete.
Well, that's an interesting thought too, Drew, because I think most of us probably have a dongle lying around. And at one time, I was going to turn mine into a, monitoring the IF of one of my radios I had at the time. I never did get a pan adapter, but I never did get around to that. But it might be interesting to set up a dongle with the software and treat that as a spectrum analyzer, make that as a comparison to the tiny SA as well, or just to see what the differences are. You might be able to. It's surprising that what you can cobble together and come up with something, maybe not totally accurate, but might be useful nonetheless.
Well, there's a operating system for the Raspberry Pi called Dragon OS, and it's a fairly heavy-duty SDR-based operating system. It does have a spectrum analyzer built into it, amongst an awful lot of other things. And I have both the tiny SA and this, and I haven't used it for what they're supposed to be used for. I'm sure. I just started to play with it because it wasn't very much money. It is $100 or something, and I found that I was using it to try to track down signals in the house to start with. Now, what Michael was showing me is it's also a signal generator, and I don't know if mine has the attenuation. I may not have the same firmware as Michael has. I may have an earlier version, so I didn't know I could set attenuations in it. But it was fairly useful for finding things around the house. So I guess a lot of it depends on what you intend to use it for. I don't think it would be much of a bench instrument.
I'm just going to pull out the tiny SA and see where those attenuation things are and let you know. I'll just pull it out and have a look.
I didn't know.
Go ahead, Dave. Go ahead, Dave. You're muted.
Yeah, got it. So yeah, just comment what Drew was saying about the Pi. Any kind of small board, what's the SBC, small board computer, whatever they're called. You got to be very careful in the ADC they have, because like an SA has got mixers and all kinds of stuff, so you could get these huge bandwidths. You could get gigahertz, but I don't think a Raspberry Pi is going to be able to resolve a gigahertz, because I don't think the processors can have an ADC. For it to do a gigahertz for Nyquist, it's got to go up to 2 gigahertz sampling, right? So, I think Raspberry Pis and those other computers are good for like audio-ish type frequencies where it's hundreds of kilohertz, they'll work great. But if you're looking for something for doing RF, I don't think it's going to meet unless you make some kind of mixer in between. And that's what Farhan's, what's his Sweeperino? That's what Farhan Sweeperino does. Is he's got a mixer. He takes the signal coming in and he mixes it to a higher IF frequency. Right? He takes it, he filters it. Same thing as exactly the same thing as what the Tiny SA does. He has a filter, he filters it, then he takes that and he brings that back down and he samples it with the, what was he use, Arduino or something, right? So he gets a very small, narrow bandwidth. You're not going to see hundreds of kilohertz bandwidth because it all depends on how wide that filter is, right?
I found it, by the way, for Drew.
Yep.
It's in the level setting. You go level, and then you go. One of the options is attenuate,
Okay.
and there's an auto option and a manual option. If you click the manual option, you're presented with the little keyboard thing.
Yep.
That allows you to adjust things. And the version I have is 1.1.4-105 is the one that I got.
Okay.
And so that's the. Now I just had the original one.
Yep.
Whatever it came with to start with, and I upgraded to the new one. And like I said, it fixed my display problem, which I thought was pretty good.
Yep. Well, it's interesting. I'll go take a look at it because that's valuable to be able to attenuate it right on the machine, not have to use my little attenuation box.
Oh no, it's right on it. It's right on it. It's right there. Also, there's, by the way, there's if you go looking, there's menu trees out there, and I think if you look at the IO group, there's a place you can look at the different menu systems for the things, and it's in there too. So yeah.
Good. Well, thanks, man. I'm just starting out with it. I bought it during COVID, but I think as an indicator, it's not a bad tool. I certainly wouldn't rely on it for anything serious.
Well, I really don't have a use for it. Like I've got it, but I'm not into things like looking at FM signal levels and stuff like that I'd see on the using the antenna or whatever. I just haven't done that kind of stuff. So you sort of scratching your head and saying, well, what do I have this really for? So I don't know. Anyway.
Well, it certainly shows the bowfangs to be less than clean sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Pete, go ahead.
I think, really, Michael, in your case, I think I mentioned before, the fact that you've got the singlet spectrum analyzer really makes the other one redundant on a lot of different levels. So why would you ever use it? It matters, and how many times do you need a spectrum analyzer out in the field? You're not going to take it camping unless you figure you're going to be bored. So
I might.
You know what? Maybe in that case, yeah, you would take it, and then you might think, So it does show something. The price of the Siglets spectrum analyzers of the world, you're still in around, I think, the $1,300, $1,400, $1,500 US. So that's a good chunk of change. So, and let's assume that that's out of your budget. So now you're down into that $100 level. So that brings into the equation the Tiny SA. Now, is the Tiny SA showing enough for the poor ham that it'd be useful at some level? It probably is. Now, you wouldn't be able to talk specifics with somebody who's measuring the same sort of thing with the Siglet, but you still have indications that there's things there. It's, the thing that now the other thing too, what Drew has, that brings up an interesting point, and Dave had an interesting point there too as to the frequencies of what you could use it for. But I think it would still be, because of the exercise you went through with the Tiny SA, Drew, if you did that with the Pi, and then make some measurements with the Pi with that software that's has the spectrum analyzer software available for it, and make measurements at HF levels just to see what it would be like for a hand at a shack for that. And again, and how does it perform? What does it look like? And what is its shortcomings? Again, it's not bad at all at audio levels, but it still would be an interesting exercise to see what it does at HF. And if that turns out to be less than satisfactory, well, then it's back to flea markets and wandering around looking for the old HPs.
Well, those old HPs there were a bunch of them around town. They all came from Carp. They were all part of the old Signals guys up at the tech shop at Carp in Leitrim.
Well, I had one for a while, and it was great, like I said, but it only went to 40 megahertz. But you know what? It was better than nothing, and it worked quite well at HF.
There were a lot of them for pin adapters. Anyways, I could certainly do that. In terms of comparing I agree with the Raspberry Pi. Yes, it doesn't have the bandwidth. When you get the display up, you don't get what you get out of the Tiny SA at all. But I can put it in comparison on HF and see what it does. Just for listening.
Dave, you got your hand up.
Yeah, if you measure HF, you can get aliasing, is what Hassan has been chirping about for years now. If you do something like that, you're sampling every other frequency and you get aliasing. So it's going to make up some other frequency. But anyway, let's not go down that rabbit hole. What I wanted to mention, Michael, I don't know if you mentioned this in your talk, but if you have a tiny SA or you've got any kind of SA, it's very, and I know this firsthand from my own personal experience, it's very, 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 did I say very? It's very important that you put an external terminator on any kind of an SA you got. Whether it's a tiny SA, it's another SA, you got to make sure you put an external terminator. I don't know, like in the Siglent, there's a menu option on Amplitude where you could go in and you could say, I've got an external 40 dB attenuator, and so it automatically does the calculations with that built in. I don't know if the Tiny SA has got that functionality where you could go and put in to say, I've got a 40 dB external attenuator, but certainly you should always put some level, even if it's a 10 or 20 dB attenuator in line with it, just in case. I blew the front end of my SA, and I had to send it back to get it fixed. And Siglent was gracious enough to fix it and not charge me for it. So I was very, 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 did I say very? Very lucky, in terms of what happened. So it's very important I use a external attenuator with these puppies.
Yeah, I agree with that. I checked before I did anything. I checked the with the signal generator. I checked. I set it up for minus 35 dBm or whatever, and then I went and looked on the scope to make sure that it was sort of okay. And so I didn't use I didn't put in external attenuation because I figured I knew enough the levels were low enough. I didn't need to worry about that, but I was very aware, yeah, for sure, because I listened to what you had to say, and I try to be careful with the Siglent to make sure that I put external attenuation in to start with anyway, until I'm sure what I'm doing. Yeah, I agree.
Okay, anybody else?
And I can't find whether the Tiny SA has in it a compensation for for external attenuation. I don't know. I'd have to look more, but I'm not sure.
Anything else for Michael? Okay. Okay, again, I'll ask, is anybody else want to bring up a subject or have a little discussion about anything? Yeah, Pete, I think maybe what we should do is maybe start something like that, a topic of discussion, and that would be a good thing because that way everybody could get involved, and for the people that may not want to do any presentations, they could be doing it that way.
All right. Well, let me think about it. Topic of interest might be more suited for the mixer than this one, but I'll give it some thought. And now the one trouble is about taking polls is because we were a legacy group IO when we were with Park, and so we had all the functionality available to us. But now that we switched to the SOAREX, they don't. We weren't grandfathered, right? So the big version doesn't have all that sort of stuff. So setting up a poll like we did before isn't going to be easy. So I'm not quite so sure how we should approach it.
Survey.
Pardon?
Survey Monkey. I think it's free.
I think you are. I'm not sure to what level. Anyway, we could do that.
Yep.
Or ask people to post what they would like to see going forward.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I was thinking maybe what we could do is hold our presentations for the main meetings, and if we get enough people interested, we can do a topic in the mixer.
Topic of interest, show and tells. If we get enough participants, then you could probably do that, Ken. Do the show and tells and like topic of interest or whatever, and the roundtables at the mixer, and then presentations at the regular meeting. Yeah, if we get enough. Anyway.
Yeah, see, in my position too, I haven't been able to do anything for about a year, and it probably won't be until after the year before I can do anything. So that sort of takes me out of the equation. We've got the usual people like Michael, Dave, yourself, Drew's done some, and it'd be really nice if some of these, if other people would contribute, even if it's for 5 minutes, and but maybe let's do something on the groups IO ask topics of interest, and maybe we could start at that point and maybe use that on the mixer, and then hold the presentations on the Wednesday meetings, the regular ones.
For what it's worth, I got into a discussion with. Sorry, Ken. It's Michael.
Oh, okay. My signal just cut out there for a second.
Yeah, same here, Michael. You started a conversation. You had a conversation with somebody, and then you dropped out.
But yeah, I had actually I was talking to you, Peter, about I forget what it was now, but I did some fiddling around looking at the functions. I think it was the spectrum analyzer looking at was it markers or something? I don't remember, but anyway, I did a bit of looking around, and I guess it occurred to me that I could look at the different menu options on, let's say, the spectrum analyzer, and what do they all do kind of affair was the thing I was thinking. Just a sort of curiosity thing, and I could put something like that together and talk about it.
Yeah,
brief discussions or something.
Yeah, I forgot we had that conversation, Michael. You're right. Some of the finer things in using the different various test gear that we all have. Just even just a little talk on those maybe seldom used things, or we don't use them because we don't know how to use them. That kind of thing.
That's right. That's right. And I was thinking, I wrote some of that. I think I did a little one pager or something, and I want to do some more on that. And maybe those kinds of things would be interesting to people. The other thought I had, it would be really nice to find a way to post the presentations, like the PowerPoint presentation somewhere other than on the YouTube video. I know they're there on the YouTube video, but it'd be nice to have a way to a repository of presentations somehow. Google Drive, maybe. I don't know.
No, I've got a big drive space on Google Drive. If need be, we could post them there, and I can share them, and we could put the share links on the group. And if people wanted to access them, just go to the group and get the link.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just a thought.
I think Drew had his hand up.
Well, I was just going to entirely change the subject and ask about building sound card interfaces and whether or not anyone bothers to use audio transformers in them. So,
Is Frank here? Okay. Peter, go ahead.
Okay, I'll just make a comment on what I was going to comment before, and then we'll switch back to what Drew just talked about. I started with the website to load our presentations up there in PDF format. Now, it might be a bit of a time delay to get it up there, but maybe that's the best solution, because then it's there. But it also means a little bit of work to get it done, and of course, who remembers how to do it all? But anyway, that's what I started to do, and maybe that's what we should do going forward, is put it up there. Because if you do it to your Google Drive, then we have to figure out where to put an index for it, right, to go linking to it. But anyway, right now I've already got a couple of presentations on the SOAREX website. The audio interface, you know what? I think I did have something set up at one time for transformers, and then the club did a project for an USB audio interface stuff. But I think, Drew, transformers are needed. As a matter of fact, I even think I got a bunch of them, because I was going to build another one, and I bought the transformers, but I didn't use them. Anyway, that's my comment there.
fair enough. I have the transformers. I was just trying to get out of the extra work.
I had a design somewhere. It's Michael. I had a design somewhere that I was fiddling around with making some kind of sound card thing. I forget the details now, but I did have a couple of those transformers, and I think it was the equivalent of the Siglent, not the Siglent, the Signal Link. And then it was a poor man's Signal Link, and then I bought one, so I never followed up. But I did actually have something that sort of worked using the audio transformers.
Mm-hmm.
A pair of them.
Yep.
Okay, go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, Drew, if you're connecting anything RF to your PC, you must, did I say must? You must use an audio transformer. Otherwise, you get ground loops. And you will get you'll get your computer keeping the rig keyed, and do all kinds of weird, wonky things, right? And it's very important you keep the PC ground and the RF ground, the RF chassis ground. I'm not talking about your antenna RF ground, like the ground plane. I'm talking about the ground, zero potential. You must have those isolated. Otherwise, you'll get RF coming back. I built a lot of sound interfaces, audio interfaces to go from my radios to my computer, so I could use Ham Radio Deluxe.
Yep.
And a lot of them I would key up the mic, and the radio would never, it would just keep keying. Or I'd get, all of a sudden, it would start changing frequencies. Mm-hmm. And it would just get really wonky stuff. And I had to put audio transformers to isolate the grounds, and opto isolators to isolate any TTL connections going back to your computer. Very, very important.
I am using a 4N25. Oh, very good. Good poll, anyways.
I think Frank was next.
Yeah, we did have a buildathon that built exactly what you're talking about, the audio coupler, and we did use transformers in that. I've used it and it's worked very well.
hmm I've got a few to build.
Charles, go ahead.
Yeah, so I thought I'd offer a dissenting opinion. Um, I've got dozens of small computers and radio interfaces without transformers in the field, working quite happily. Number of small APRS units. It really comes down to, I think, what sort of computer you're using, what sort of power you're blasting out, and what frequencies you're playing with. So while I would agree that isolating everything with transformers and optos is a good super safe way to go. It's not completely necessary. You can build a nice interface with R's and C's, and rather than isolating the grounds, you in fact tie the grounds very tightly together to make sure that there's a solid path there at the frequencies that you're interested in. So I've got a small circuit board that I've put together that does this, and as I say, I've built many of these without transformers, and they work quite happily.
Fair enough.
Okay, very good. Uh,
Provided your antenna, that's you must have really good antenna where you don't have any RF coming back. If you've got like one of those NFED antennas, I got a vertical, and so you got to choke the line because you do get RF coming back because it doesn't have a ground plane, and so if you don't have a ground plane, you'll get RF. The antenna uses the coax as the other half.
Yeah, Dave, I
I was
all of the
muted.
ones that I've put, all the ones I have in the field are working at VHF. So that but I have in fact done the same thing with my 7300, and I do have an end-fed half-wave antenna that I'm using with it, but I've got probably 20 or 25 feet of coax looped up, uh, lying on the ground as an ugly balun for that to keep the RF from coming back in. I have had situations where I've got RF coming back in. Again, I haven't been, completely lucky in this, but certainly the VHF units I'm using, and particularly the ones that are running, 5 watts, 8 watts kind of thing, it's it's easy enough to make it work with R's and C's rather than magnetics.
I was muted. Did you hear what I just said?
No.
yeah.
Or were you able to read my lips?
Yeah,
no, that's yeah.
we saw
I
you
was talking.
repeating the word very.
Yeah. Okay. I was no. I was saying exactly that because I've got a vertical, which any kind of antenna that doesn't have a ground plane, it uses the coax as the other half of the antenna. And as you said, you got to have a good choke. And even with, I've got the actual clamp-on chokes. I've got about 12, and each of them is, I can't remember how much it chokes off. And I've got a loop of coax as well, and I still get RF coming back to my shack, especially in the low bands. If you go down to 80 meters, I get 160 meters. Oh man, my lights in my house here, they flicker.
Fair enough.
Well, that's all good information. Kind of interesting. I do have one I built a long time ago, and it doesn't have transformers, and it always worked really well. But it's against the best advice, and every circuit diagram you get, of course, has the audio transformers. So I thought I would ask this learned group and see where it went.
Oh,
Thanks.
I've built interfaces. I've built a lot of interfaces, and some of them work. Simple transistors and things like that, and they work fine, no problem. And then one time I put this 1 in 10 up, and all of a sudden, poof,
Yep.
I get all kinds of problems. And so now, and I did a talk. If you're Charles, if you're interested, Drew, if you're interested, I did a talk. If you look at my I can't remember what it's called, but I did a talk on my homebrew interface, ICOM interface I made for my interface. And this thing is just rock solid. I go on there, I use, what's a JT whatever, 85 or whatever the latest thing is, JT call, and PSK and I go right from 80, 160 right up to, 30 and no problem. Works rock solid.
Nice. I'll take a look for that, Dave. Thanks.
So anybody else with a comment? Okay, how about any questions regarding anything? I guess that's it.
Oh, I got a question.
Yeah, go ahead. You don't even have to put up your hand.
Who wants to host the November 2nd meeting? Or first meeting, I should say.
First thing, I can host it.
Oh, you can host it?
Yeah, I can host it. But I need somebody to record because I don't have a second computer to record on.
So Dave,
No.
I think you said you could record, right?
And Dave, you're still muted.
Yeah, no, I was looking for the mute button. Yeah, it depends. Am I presenting that day? I know I mentioned when I was in Cuba, I sent a message saying that I could present one day, and I said October or November, take your pick. And you guys sent a message out saying what a certain date, and I can't remember what date you said.
November. I'm bringing up the spreadsheet now, but my computer's slow. But as we're chatting here, I'll see what the schedule has. But I think I said November 2nd. November 1st. November 1st. Right now we have nothing scheduled, and I think the regular meeting in November. I think Michael, are you down for that? Well, I'll know in a minute as soon as the spreadsheet boots up.
Yeah, so I got a 3-part series. I got on Miller effect. So the first one is on what it is, why it happens. Second one is how to compensate for it. And I've done a lot of testing, and I've got circuits. Explain why Cascode and these amplifiers can take out Miller. And then the third one is kind of a bonus. I'm just trying to put together all the equations for a feedback amplifier. When you use a negative feedback, how does the equations work? So I'm just doing that now.
Well, that'd be good.
Neat stuff. Yeah.
Well, if you're ready to go,
I'm-
Dave, for November 1st, that'd be great.
So yeah, where I was going, I don't know if I mentioned this. I'm losing my mind. I could certainly present November 1st, no problem, but I would prefer not to record because then I have to go to another computer, turn that on, and if it disconnects, I have to run in the other room and turn it back on, and then I miss things because I may not know it stopped recording. So if I'm presenting, I prefer not to, but I could.
Well, again, I'm not going to be able to make November 2nd, and neither will our first, and neither will Eric. So that takes out that.
All
Okay,
you really need is somebody who's got a second computer that they could record on, ideally.
let me try it out this week, and I've got my old laptop. Maybe what I could do is join the meeting with that and use this computer for recording. No big deal. I can actually record on this PC while the meeting's going on. The problem is it's going to record any buttons I push, my mouse and everything will be recorded. So let me take a look at that this weekend and see if I can get something on. But yeah, if you can present on the first, Dave, that'd be great.
I mean,
And Ken,
I'm
the
almost,
the other thing I could do is I could also record as well, and maybe between both, it might be a pain in the ass if you got to stitch multiple videos together. But hopefully, one of us is able to capture the whole thing, so we could try and record. I could record independently of you, and whichever one works best, to use that.
Yeah, and
We
if
could
I
do
have
that,
to
right?
even if I got to stitch something together, it's no big deal. It takes like a second. Okay.
I almost got the spreadsheet booted up again. Like I say, everything's going big time slow here, so I'll know in a minute what we got go. Okay, here we go. Okay, November 1st, the mixer. We have nothing scheduled. November 15th, we have Michael down for his automatic antenna switch project. Michael, is that still good?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh
So-
yeah, it's done. It's been done. It's been done for months.
Okay.
What we're doing is I've got a breadboarded circuit I can talk about, and if we get a chance before that meeting, I'll talk about how we put it into a box and stuff if we get that far.
Okay.
And Daniel and I are doing that. So yeah.
Okay, so that takes care of November 15th. So Dave, if you want to do your part 1 on November 1st, that would be good. Did you want to do your part 2 on December 6th as well?
Yeah, I don't have my calendar. I think I'm not planning to go away anywhere over the next couple of months, so it should be okay. Let me just check December. The only thing is, I may have to go have surgery end of next month. So if I have surgery, I may not be in any shape to present. So put me down as tentatively.
Okay, so I'll put you down as November 1st to do your part 1. December 6th, I'll see if I can I've got some stuff kind of in the works going back and forth with some stuff. So maybe I'll go with December 6th, but I'll have you in mind there as well as a backup in case. And then if you can't do it, then I'll see if I can fill in something there then.
Yeah, no, you could put me down as tentative. Yeah, but the other thing too is you may want to do a poll. And I don't know if that's the poll you were talking about because I was missing audio here and there. But about December, when are we going to have meetings in December? Are we going to stop at some point? Are we going to go right through till almost Christmas? What are we doing? So that's something else we need to talk about.
Yeah, I mean the last meeting is scheduled. The regular meeting is December 20th. I'm sure we're okay with December 6th. That shouldn't be an issue. I guess the question is, do we hold the December 20th regular meeting?
Well, I know for a fact I won't be available then.
I won't be here either.
I believe in the past we have skipped the one that's right at Christmas, right? So,
okay. Anybody else want to comment on it? Okay, well, we'll put that down as part of a poll. But right off the bat, we're all about 4 of us already, 5 maybe. Or anyway, so maybe that is a good idea. Cancel the 20th, and then that takes us into January, right? And January would be
The 3rd
January 3rd
and the 17th.
and the 17th. I guess the 3rd would be okay. The hangovers would be all done by then, right? Okay, so maybe we'll cancel the 20th. Okay, we'll put something together there, and maybe we'll cancel that one, and then we'll pick it back up again December 3rd. All right.
Okay, so this weekend I'll look into doing a second recording on another computer, maybe a laptop, and I'll let you know, Dave.
And what I'll do is, Michael, I got your presentation from tonight. I'm not sure if I'm going to have time because I'm going away in a couple of days for a week, so maybe a couple of weeks, and then I'll convert it and see if I can upload it to the club website, or the club website, the SOAREX website. and that maybe that's a good place to do it. Bit of a pain.
I can convert it to I can convert it to a PDF if that's what you want and send it to you in that form as well.
Oh, okay, yeah, that'd be good. Yep, yeah, because the SOAREX website will only accept PDFs.
I'll do that. I'll convert it to PDF then and send it to you tomorrow.
I think.
And this one too, for that matter. Wait a minute, we're talking about
Yeah.
No, that's the same one. It's the same one. Yes, okay. Yeah, okay, I'll do that.
Okay, good thing. All right.
Yep. Okay.
Okay. So does anybody else have anything to add or comment on? Okay, gentlemen, I think we are done for tonight. So the next meeting, as Peter mentioned, is November 1st. I'll host that. And Dave is going to do his part 1 Miller effect presentation on that one. And I believe that is it. Okay, gentlemen, have a good night and have a good rest of the week. Talk to you all later.
Cheers. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for doing